artist for Meadow Arts, a nonprofit art organization located in Twisp, Washington. And today I'm going to show you how to make these Wayne Thiebaud inspired ice cream cones. And we're going to also learn about tint and shade mixing with colors today. So what you're going to need for this project is a stiff piece of paper like cardstock, that would be fine, acrylic paint, crayons or oil pastels, a brush, a pencil, a little thing to mix paint on. It can be just like a little lid, that's fine, from a plastic container, and then some water, and maybe some paper towel too, just to wipe off the brush. So go ahead and gather all those supplies, and once you have those in front of you, you can press play again. So before we get started, let's talk a little bit about who Wayne Thiebaud is. He was born in 1920 in Mesa, Arizona, and he started off his career as an artist, as a commercial artist. So he did cartoons and he did some graphic design, and it wasn't until the 50s when he really started his painting practice. And when he started his painting practice in the 50s, he painted a lot of diner treats like pies and cakes and ice cream, and he did a lot of his work in California. So in a lot of his paintings, they're very colorful. The light is very bright, very significant to the California kind of landscape. And so we're going to take a little bit of those ideas of his use of light and color in his paintings to apply to our own work as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first part of this project is to draw two circles and basically a triangle. Whenever drawing, it's important to see things as simple shapes. So here we have, two circles and our cone, which is basically just a triangle. So the best way to draw circles is not just to move your wrist, because just moving your wrist is really limiting in the range of motion you have. It's best to actually try to think about moving your whole arm from your shoulder. And I'm just going to loosely draw a circle. Again, you don't want to press down super hard with your pencil. Keep it at a light pressure, and then going round and round and round, you get a pretty nice circle. And don't worry about all these extra lines in terms of erasing them, because we're going to be using acrylic paint, and acrylic paint is really great in the fact that it can cover up those lines just fine. So don't worry about that part. So we have our first circle. Let's go ahead and do our second circle down here. Round and round and round. Okay. And then, again, just drawing loosely. Draw the shape of a triangle. Okay, so something kind of like that. All right, from here, how we're going to go about painting our ice cream is looking over at this ice cream cone. You're going to use a color by itself, which in this case is green, and then to give it kind of a three-dimensional appearance, we're going to mix the green with white to make a tint. And that's what's over here on the left. It's the highlighted, the area where the light is hitting the hardest or the most on this object. So we're going to mix green with white to make a tint over here. And then we're going to mix green with black to make a shade, and that's going to be the shadow on the right. So on the left, we're going to have the highlight, and then on the right, we're going to have what would be considered the core shadow, which is green plus black makes a shade. Okay, so let's go ahead and just mimic what I did over here. You can choose whatever color you want. So if you don't want that first ice cream scoop to be green, that's fine. I'm just going to take my acrylic paint here and squeeze a little bit out on this lid. So again, you don't need to have any sort of fancy palette. Anything with like a plastic or even kind of like a glass surface is fine. And you might want to just just dab, here I'll bring my water closer, just dab your brush just a little bit in the water. It will help kind of move that acrylic paint around a little bit more. And when painting something like a circle, it's best to start out by taking the brush and outlining the outside of the circle and then going from the outside toward the inside of the circle. Outlining first just kind of helps us create a nice sort of clean edge. So all the way around. And don't worry if it's not a perfect circle, because again, this is ice cream, right? So ice cream, when we get it, it's sometimes it's lumpy. If it's a hot day, then it's melting. So no worries if your circle is not perfect, okay? So I have my green scoop of ice cream. Can be like, I don't know, like mint or pistachio ice cream. And now what I'm gonna do is, just like I said before, we're gonna create the tint. So I'm gonna put a little bit of white. We gotta make the tint by adding white to our color. So I put some white acrylic down on the lid and just a smidge of green plus white should be enough, okay? Now I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to go along the left side of the ice cream cone. Because what we're imagining here is that the light is coming from the left. So this side is going to receive the most light. Okay. And if the paint is still wet, I'm noticing the green paint is still a little wet, you can even just take that white and just add it directly on there, and it kind of mixes as you move your brush across the surface. Okay, so there we go. We got our area of highlight. I'm going to wash off my brush. And now we're going to make a shade by mixing green with black. So now black is a pretty powerful color, so you just want to dip your brush just a little bit in the black. Okay. And because black can be kind of overpowering. So there we go, I got green mixed with black to create a shade. And I'm just going to carefully go over the right side. And there we go. So we have the first scoop of ice cream. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this again with red. So I'm going to get red out. And just make sure you have enough space on the surface that you're mixing your colors on. If you need to pause the video and wash off the surface that you're mixing your paint on, that's totally fine, and you can come back. So I'm going to, again, dip my brush in a little bit of water. And I'm going to start out by first painting sort of the outside edges of the second ice cream scoop. Okay, outside, and then moving from the outside edges towards the inside. Okay, and if you're finding it's hard to move the paint around, just add a little bit more water to things. There we go, to your brush. And remember, go slow. And it's also important when doing something that requires kind of a steady hand to remember to breathe. So a lot of times when I'm painting, I kind of breathe in, and then when I move my brush, I breathe out. Because if you're holding your breath because you're nervous, you'll end up creating tension. And you want to just make sure that you're breathing. Okay, so let's start off again by making a tint. So now that we covered this ice cream scoop with red, so I'm going to mix white now with red to create a tint. And I'm going to place that tint on the left side, just like I did with the green scoop of ice cream. So again, going slowly. And it's okay if it's not perfect. Okay. Okay, so there's that side. Wash off my brush. Now we're ready to add in the shadow on the right. I'm going to mix red with black to create a shade. And I'm going to slowly fill in the right side. And there we go. So I have those 2 ice cream scoops. With the ice cream cone, you might have brown already with the acrylic paints that you have. If you don't, you can always mix a little bit of black, just a teeny tiny bit of black with orange, and it ends up making kind of this brown color. I have this yellow ochre, and I'm going to mix some of it too with the red. So if you have yellow ochre, you can mix that with red. That's another way of making a brown. So I'm going to just kind of mix this brown here, and then a little bit of white, kind of give it that light brown color. Okay, actually I want a little more yellow in there. All right, same idea. So you're going to start off by first filling in the outer edges. Okay. And then bringing your brush towards the inside. And with the inside, you can kind of paint a little quicker just to fill everything in. All right, so there I have my cone. You're welcome to add a little white to that mixture to create an area of highlight on the left, just to kind of follow suit with everything else. So there's my little area of highlight. The same thing, you can add just a touch of black. Ooh, that's a little bit too much black. To that mixture to create that little shadow on the right. Now after all of this, just to kind of make the ice cream cone stand out a little bit more, I have my oil pastels here. And you can grab whatever color you want. It might be good to look at some of Wayne Thiebaud's paintings and just notice the backgrounds. Sometimes it's just really beautiful colored backgrounds that help the subject stand out a little bit more. And also another thing to notice is that there's oftentimes kind of an area of light around his subjects, or a color. So I'm not going to color all the way up to the edge of my ice cream cone. One, it's still drying. Two, leaving a little bit of white around the ice cream cone. In fact, I'm just going to outline, will really make it stand out more. So I'm just going to outline all the way around my ice cream cone. If you want and you feel better about letting it dry first, that might be a good idea to just put it aside and let it dry first before doing this next part, just in case you bump your crayon into the wet paint. Okay, so with that, then I can just color everything in. I'm going to actually take off this wrapper because I think the easier way to color this in, especially if you're using something like oil pastel like I have, is just to turn it on its side. I'm going to break this off. Turn it on its side to really take up that space. Because otherwise it might take a while if you're just coloring by using the point of the oil pastel. So I turned it on its side and pressing down pretty hard, being mindful of where my other hand is to hold down the paper. You have to make sure that you're putting enough pressure down to hold that paper in place. Okay, and I'm not going to worry, like right here, I'm not going to worry about going all the way to the outer edge. I'm going to leave a little bit of a white border too on the outside. Okay, I'm just filling all this in. And here, you might have to go back on the point of the pastel when coming close to the outer edge there. It's hard to get those details by having the pastel on its side. Okay, and then up here as well. And there we go. That's basically it. If you decided to color in your background while the paint is still dry, go ahead and take this opportunity to set your painting aside and let it dry fully before you hang it up. All right, I hope you enjoyed making this Wayne Thiebaud inspired ice cream cone with me today, and I look forward to the next time that we create together. Bye for now.